Talk about a crusher. Yes! Oh!
Are you kidding me?
And gone!
Welcome back to the Schoolyard Sports podcast. I'm the host of this podcast, Lane Frank. We're not in episode 245. Yes, sir, 245 episodes through, and I got an action-packed episode planned for you. The Indiana Hoosiers have won the national championship. We have our conference championship set to see who will go to the Super Bowl in the NFL. We're approaching the All-Star break and trade deadline in the NBA. MLB Hot Stove is finishing up. We got a little bit going on in college basketball. Gonna get through it all in episode 245. Let's hop into it. Let's start off episode 245, how we always do, with our headlines. And in the NBA, well, my New York Knicks are struggling. I mean, playing like one of the worst teams in the NBA. Fun fact, no NBA head coach in their first season has been fired mid-season. Mike Brown, well, you're on the hot seat, everybody. So I think Mike Brown could definitely be fired by the New York Knicks, and I hope he is, as a New York Knicks fan. Next thing in the NBA, Jimmy Butler tore his ACL the other night, effectively ending the Warriors' vision and their plan for the future. I've got a segment coming up about later, but we're going to dive through all the things with Jimmy Butler and the Warriors later on. But Jimmy Butler, second oldest player in NBA history, tear ACL, age 36. How much longer will Butler play? I don't know. But torn ACL for the Warriors superstar. LeBron James is not an all-star starter for the first time in 21 years. LeBron James not an all-star game starter for the first time in 21 years. Not that big of a surprise. He missed the whole first month of the year. He'll probably still be an all-star, which is incredibly impressive at his age. What is he, 42 now, LeBron James? So very impressive stuff right there from the king, from the GOAT, LeBron James. Let's hop into the NFL, where obviously we had an incredible divisional round weekend, starting off with the Broncos winning at home over the Bills. Overtime game. Great defense. If plays, I wouldn't say great defense. The Broncos just had some great plays. The interception, forcing fumbles on Josh Allen. But of course, Bo Nix breaks his ankle and is really the soul crusher for that Denver team. Let's see how they can respond next week against the New England Patriots with Jarrett Stidham at quarterback in that conference championship game. A home game, a rematch of that 2015 conference championship game, Denver versus New England. Denver won that game. Will we see the same result 11 years later in 2026? You're going to have to wait and see my pick on that coming up next. Seahawks took down the 49ers, and that stadium was buzzing from the first second that game started. A real true playoff game for Seattle. I don't think they've had a home playoff game in a very long time. I can think of one that they had in 2020, but weren't many fans of that game, of course. Weren't any fans of that game when they lost to the Los Angeles Rams in the 2020-2021 NFL season. But the Seahawks from the gate, you get their kick return touchdown by Rashid Shaheed. It was a massive move right there. And just an all-around dominant game. Do not come away unscathed, though. Zach Charbonnet did break his ankle and will be out the rest of the year. The Patriots took down the Texans on Sunday in a really just slow game. You could say sloppy game on both sides, but you knew the Patriots were going to control the outcome of that game. They did. They got the win. The Rams took down the Bears, which is obviously an incredible game. Caleb Williams with that incredible play at the end of the game, getting it to Cole Kmet for the touchdown. Wasn't enough, though. If I was Ben Johnson, I would have gone for 2. They didn't. Rams came away with the win because you go for 2 in that situation, in my opinion, because you weren't controlling that game in any way. You weren't outplaying them, and you got lucky to be in that situation off of that touchdown. So why not go for 2? Why not put all your chips in that bag? Why want to trust your defense and go out there again? I wouldn't have done that if I was Chicago. They did it. They bit the boat for it. Harrison Mevis got that game-winning kick. Now, the Buffalo Bills fired head coach Sean McDermott on Monday. A huge move, really big move, of course. He's been the head coach there since Rex Ryan got fired. So that's obviously a long time. Big part of my football watching career has been with Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills. Now, I don't know who they'll move on to. I don't know if he was the issue. Brandon Beane, their GM, could have been the issue. Josh Allen could have been the issue. Their defense, I don't think, was the issue. So Sean McDermott getting fired, I could have seen it in other seasons. Not so much this one. I wouldn't blame that loss on him. I would blame it on maybe the officiating, maybe Josh Allen's play for that loss to Denver. Robert Saleh has been hired by the Tennessee Titans in a really big move for them. They think that they can go with a defensive head coach with a young rookie quarterback. They think that will work for them. We've seen this move work before. You think of the Steelers picking up Mike Tomlin 20 years ago and Big Ben, which is a second-year quarterback. That worked out perfectly for them. They won a Super Bowl. They won 2 Super Bowls. So let's see how this move plays off. Will Robert Saleh, and I'm not saying he's going to win a Super Bowl, Will he do better this time around as a head coach? We know how that tenure went, the tumultuous tenure in New York with the Jets. Jeff Hafley, former Boston College head coach and Green Bay Packers defense coordinator, is heading over to the Miami Dolphins to be their head coach. Not too surprising here, but Hafley doesn't have the results, doesn't have the production on the field as a head coach to show you he's ready for this. But hey, we'll see if it pays off for Miami. And John Harbaugh closes the deal with the New York Giants, will be their next head coach. Very excited for that as a Giants fan. Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette, both off the market now. We talked about last week. Kyle Tucker going to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and Bo Bichette becoming a New York Met. That's about for the headlines, everybody. Still more to come. Episode 245. It is here, the second to last Schoolyard Sports NFL game day of the year. We got the conference championship games, and I want to kick it off with our NFC championship game, Seahawks versus the Rams. It's in Seattle, and usually when I do this, I have the names written down of who I'm picking. I don't know who I'm picking in these games. Let's see who I end up choosing. So, Seattle obviously has a great defense, and they've done that all year long. When you think of it, though, I can't name 3 players on their defense. I can't do it. I can think of Tariq Woolen. I can think of Devon Witherspoon. I can't think of many other guys. That shows how well coached this team is. Mike McDonald, their head coach, has done a great job. Their defense coordinator has done a great job. Well, Sam Darnold was banged up last week, and he obviously performed at a very high level. Let's see if he can do it again this week against a really good Rams defense. Defense coordinator for the Rams, Chris Shula, big head coaching candidate for teams like the Steelers, was a candidate for the Raiders. We'll see what happens there. I think it's just going to be a low-scoring game. I really do. The Rams obviously aren't the highest-scoring team out there. We saw it last week. They didn't score many points against the Chicago Bears. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. And at the end of the day, I think that Seattle crowd, where we saw guys like Beast Mode erupt and create earthquakes, where we've seen the 12th man come out and be alive. The only NFL game I've ever been to was in the 12th man stands in Seattle, and everybody from the top deck to the low deck was going nuts in that one. So for that reason, I think it is time the Seahawks return to the promised land. They make their way down to Levi's Stadium in 2 weeks for the Super Bowl, where they will take on the winner of the AFC Championship game, Patriots versus the Broncos. Now, Jarrett Stidham doesn't have to be perfect in this game. He has 4 career starts. One start against the San Francisco 49ers about 4 years ago, where he lit up that defense. If you remember, let's go back 6 years now, Jarrett Stidham was going to be the Patriots quarterback in 2020 until they signed Cam Newton at the last moment. So he's not exactly a bum, Stidham. He said when Bo Nixon named the starter, I know I'm going to be a starting quarterback in this league. I know I have that ability. Now, Drake May is young, second-year quarterback. We've seen second-year quarterbacks make this leap. We saw it with Joe Burrow make the Super Bowl a few years ago. We saw it with Russell Wilson making the Super Bowl in his second year, and we saw Big Ben making the Super Bowl in his second year. Will we see the same with Drake May? I say no. I think this defense of Denver is really talented. I think Jarrett Stidham doesn't have to do too much, and they come out to win. Denver over New England, and I'm giving you a Denver versus Seattle rematch of, what was it, Super Bowl 48? Yes, we get that rematch here. Denver versus Seattle, this time in Levi's Stadium and not in MetLife Stadium. That's about for Schoolyard Sports NFL Game Day. Now, top 5, everybody. This week's top 5 is the top 5 teams of the college football playoff era. I'm talking 2014 all the way up to 2026. I think we do this segment every year when there's a new national champion. Maybe some shuffling of the teams around, but the Indiana Hoosiers, 16-0 national champions, obviously an incredible team. Let's see where they stack up over the past few champions. Number 5, I'm going to go with 2016 Clemson, the team that won the championship in 2017. So 2016, 2017 Clemson, they went 14-1. They lost one game against Pitt. Chris Blewett, the kicker for Pitt, had an incredible game winner in that game. And Clemson really all year long threw punches in the ACC. They got some punches back, and they kept on standing. Same thing when that national championship game. They got punches from Jalen Hurts all around the field. Jalen Hurts had a winning touchdown, it seemed like. But then Deshaun Watson leads an incredible drive. Mike Williams is a hero there too. And Hunter Renfrow won them with a game winner, one of the best games I've ever seen in college football. And that team, that defense, ranks number 5 for me in the college ball playoff era. Number 4, I'm going to go with last night's team, the Indiana Hoosiers. I think they are so talented, and they were tested all year long, it seemed like, in games like Iowa, where you thought they were going to lose when they throw a pick when it's 13-13. In games like Oregon, when Fernando Mendoza throws a pick only up 3. In games like Penn State, where it's 3rd and 20 in your own goal line situation, and you get that pass. And then Omar Cooper gets touchdown later that drive on third down, where a game you didn't think you would win in Happy Valley. One of the biggest wins in Indiana football history. And then, of course, this playoff run was dominant. You look at the Alabama game, destroyed them. Oregon game, destroyed them. And last night was icing on the cake. Perfect all-around team, but there's a lot of good teams here. So I'm going to put Indiana at number 4. Number 3, I'm actually going to go with the 2021 Georgia team, not the 2022 Georgia team. That team went undefeated. This team actually had one loss, 14-1 to Alabama. But this team, and I love this stat, if there was college football fantasy, their defense would have averaged 25 points per game in fantasy football. Their defense. This defense was stacked. Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, Keely Ringo, just so many guys all around the field flying around there for the Georgia Bulldogs. The offense was special. Guys like James White, Stetson Bennett, George Pickens. An embarrassment of riches for that Georgia team, and they were incredible all year long. 3, Georgia Bulldogs. 2, and this one's controversial, but I've said it before, 2019 LSU. Yes, they were amazing. Yes, they blew out everybody, but they didn't have a good defense, and they would lose to the number 1 team on this list, 2023 Michigan. Michigan, without their head coach for 6 games, they had a terrible head coach for 3 games, and Sharon Moore makes that 4, and we all know how that situation went out when he became the head coach. So they faced so much adversity all season long with the fake sign-stealing scandal, and they came through when it mattered most. And these guys are still good in the NFL now. You look at A.J. Barner, an all-pro tight end. You look at Colson Loveland. He might win Offensive Rookie of the Year. J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, he's still playing right now. Guys all around the field like Michael Barrett, defensive side of the ball. Mikey Singer still. I can go on a tangent of the stars on this Michigan football team, and that's why they are the number 1 team of the college football playoff era. That's about for Top 5 this week. Now, did you know? This week's Did You Know is, did you know tug of war was an official Olympic sport from 1900 to 1920? Now, I think they should bring it back, but with a twist. Don't make it its own individual athletes. I don't care about Joe Schmo, who trained all year to grip his hands as the anchor. No, I want it to be the athletes that are already there at the Olympics competing in this. Wouldn't you love to see LeBron James teaming up with, say, Christian Pulisic, and then you've got maybe Megan Rapinoe in there, Sue Bird, all across there. And the same for the soccer guys. What if you have Neymar playing anchor right there for tug of war? I don't think that would happen, but if you could bring tug of war back, that'd be great. And that's the Did You Know this week. Tug of war used to be an official Olympic sport. Indiana football isn't just unlikely. It's almost impossible that this happened. There's many reasons to it. I'm gonna go through those reasons. But what happened last night, what happened all season long, has been brewing for a very long time. From the hardships they faced a long time ago to where they are now, it's an incredible ride for the Hoosiers. So let me give you some context. Indiana football has the worst winning percentage of all time still in Power 5 history. Still. Before Curt Cignetti joined, they had only 2 winning seasons since 1993. They also had the most Division I losses in football history until Curt Cignetti joined. They only have 3 Big Ten titles since they joined in 1899, including the one this year in 2025. They only have 3 bowl wins this year, and they won 2 games this year. So leading up to that, with Curt Cignetti, they only had 3 bowl wins, and they won 2 this year. The Rose Bowl and the Peach Bowl. They had 24 straight losses to Michigan before Curt Cignetti showed up. Actually ended in 2020 with Tom Allen. But they had 24 straight losses to Michigan. Proves just they couldn't get over the hump against these top programs. I don't know if they'd ever beaten Ohio State. I'd really never seen it until this year when they did in the Big Ten championship game. The only good season for Indiana football I could ever think of before Curt Cignetti came around was in 2020, where they beat teams like Penn State, where they beat teams like Michigan, they beat Wisconsin, and they were very close to beating Ohio State. But after that, in 2021, they went back to Indiana, and they won 2 games and won 2-10 that year with Michael Penix Jr. at quarterback. So Tom Allen got fired in 2023. Brought in Curt Cignetti on November 30th, 2023, and that's when this changed forever. When he went to that basketball game and he said, yeah, Purdue is our rival, we'll beat them, but we're going to beat the heck out of Michigan and Ohio State too. Those guys. And that's exactly what he did. He beat Ohio State, he beat Michigan last year, and he's a national champion today. So for historically the worst program in college football history, what happened last night shows miracles can happen. And all you want to talk about how terrible college football is. And I talk about it too, how this game is evolving, where there's situations like Darian Mensa's, where there's the offseason going on right now and you're still playing games, where there's all this chaos around college football. Find the good in a story like Indiana. The Hoosiers of Indiana, and what a story that was. Indiana University, your 2025 national champions. I don't know if they'll ever get back to the stage. I don't think they will for a very long time, if ever. But enjoy this moment, Kurt Cignetti, because yes, I'm still going to doubt you. I still don't think you'll win the Natty next year, but who knows? Because I said earlier this year that you guys wouldn't be good, and look where you are now. So for the national champions, Indiana football, what a great story this is. Not just for college football, not just for sports, but for the whole entire world. That's about for my spotlight this week. Let's hop into some college hoops madness, everybody. Now, we saw some madness over the past 2 weeks with teams like Michigan losing their undefeated squad, with teams like Iowa State losing 2 games in 1 week. Vanderbilt also lost 2 games last week to Texas and to Florida. Arizona became a unanimous #1 team in the country for the first time in their program history, and I'm here to tell you it's a little bit baloney because I don't think they play anybody too good. Now, I think they're a very good squad. They beat Florida at the beginning of the year. They've beaten UConn, #2 in the country, sitting at 16-1, but they don't look so great either. They go to overtime against Big East teams, it seems like, all the time now, UConn. But they are back to that top spot, seems like, with Dan Hurley after a really rough year last year. But for Arizona, #1 team in the country, undefeated, only undefeated Power 5 team now, I do think, outside of Nebraska, I do think you have to give them some respect. Now, going over to Nebraska, Fred Hoiberg, just has done an incredible job with this team. When you think of it, it was a little bit weird of a hire for a fired NBA head coach to go to Nebraska. You think he could do better. But hey, he was terrible in the NBA. Maybe he'll do better in college basketball. And he really didn't for a long time. He's been there for a very long time. He has been there since before the pandemic started. And this is only their second good season ever. If you think of it, Casey Tominaga 2 years ago was a great player for them, but they didn't win a tournament game. They lost to Texas A&M. Now this year, they're obviously having a great year. They're undefeated. Connor Esigian is there. They've got guys all around the court like his son, Steve Hoiberg, playing great for them, and they're undefeated and #1 in the Big Ten for a reason. Now another guy in the Big Ten who's on a tear right now is Diggy Coit. This is his nickname. David Coit's his real name, putting up 43 points on Sunday off of 9 threes. To think of it, Kansas basketball had this guy last year, and Kansas basketball is looking incredible right now with Darren Peterson back and healthy. So for those guys to be back, Darren Peterson, if you could had Diggy Coit in this team, well, that Kansas squad would have been special. But nonetheless, he's on the Maryland. He's doing a really good job for the Terrapins so far. Diggy Coit had to point that out. 43 points the other day. Michigan, they're still rolling after that loss to Wisconsin. 16-1, just beat Indiana tonight. So I think Michigan basketball is still a team to beat in the Big Ten, the team to beat over Nebraska, over Michigan State. Now Duke is 17-1. Duke is that one loss to Texas Tech, a game they should not have lost. Will Duke run the table in the ACC? I think so. I think UNC has really struggled. I don't think they'll be a good challenge for them anymore. So I think Duke will go undefeated for the rest of the regular season. Leave your thoughts on that in the comments if you think Duke will go undefeated for the rest of the regular season. Now Florida is getting back on track due to a little bit unlikely of ways. You go over to Vanderbilt on Saturday. Xavier Lee and Boogie Fland, your 2 best players, and Micah Hanlockton, all don't have their jerseys. The equipment manager blundered. He messed up. Maybe it was direct orders from Todd Golden to get these guys out of a slump. But you've got Boogie Fland wearing a guy named Cooper Josephberg's jersey. You've got Xavier Lee wearing #9 with no name on the back. And you've got Micah Hanlockton wearing a random jersey. And hey, they beat an undefeated team in Vanderbilt. So I think it might pay off for them. A little trickery going on there in Gainesville. And it works off in the long run, winning a big game. Maybe Florida's best win of the season so far. Talked about Kansas getting healthy. Guys like Darren Peterson. Bill Self is going through some health issues right now. We hope he's going to be all good. But I think Kansas can be one of the best teams in the country right now. Ranked number 18. But don't be surprised if they end up winning this Big 12. There's my rundown in college hoops this week, bringing you the madness. Now, at the buzzer. This week's at the buzzer. I want to talk about this Duke quarterback situation, Darian Mensah. Now, Darian Mensah committed to Duke, transferred last year from Tulane, and got $4 million to play for Duke for his last 2 seasons of college football. He's not allowed to transfer, it says in his contract. It says he must fulfill his time with the Blue Devils. And this isn't just a Darian Mensah issue, it's a college football issue. College football's broken. It's the only sport where the offseason happens during the season. Coaches leave, free agency goes on. None of that would happen in the NBA. None of that would happen in the NFL. But here we are in college football where all that goes on, and it seems like the offseason is starting today after the national championship, and there's nothing to talk about except this Darian Mensah situation. My thoughts on it are, If you're a college kid, you should be able to freely go wherever you want. If you want to transfer, transfer. It's your life. You're in college. You're not held to that. So don't sign a contract that says you must stay there. Don't do it. Now, if you are going to transfer time and time again, then you shouldn't be able to be paid NIL. There should be a one-time, maybe even two-time, you should be paid NIL. But if it's in your contract that you can't be paid NIL by anybody else, then so be it. So for Darian Mensah, I don't feel bad. I think for Darian Mensah, let him go to Miami, but don't let him get paid there. I talked about this, that NIL is broken. NIL was meant for a Zion Williamson to be in a Beats commercial, a McDonald's commercial. It was not meant for the Michigan fifth-string running back to be getting paid $100,000. It wasn't meant for everybody. It was meant for the cream of the crop. Now, if there's some Miami donor out there who has a big business and they want to sponsor Darian Mensah to go to Miami, well, that's a broken part of the system too. And that's why we will never fix up NIL. But college football is an issue, and Darian Mensah is at the forefront of it. These guys are becoming employees. I really think so. So when you become employees, then you can't leave your contract, and you can't just jump ship whenever you want. If you're running a business and you sign somebody to a contract, well, what about a non-compete in there that says, if you leave us, you can't go to our competitor? Are we going to introduce non-competes to college football now? We actually used to have that, where if you were going to transfer before the transfer portal era, you couldn't transfer to a team in your conference. I still think that should hold true, but then you won't see transfers of guys like Ole Miss to LSU, and you definitely wouldn't see Darian Mensah going from Duke to Miami, both in the ACC. These guys are employees. I think we should start treating them like them. NIL is clearly broken. Time to make them part of the labor force, it seems like. This Darian Mensah situation has taken a turn for the worst. If he goes back to Duke, that's just slapping the Band-Aid on the issue, and it creates a bad culture where you say this guy didn't want to be here anymore. It's the same as the Nico situation from last year at Tennessee. It's the same as the DeMond situation last month. And it's the same right here with Darian Mensah. Those are my thoughts on it. At the Buzz this week, talking about Darian Mensah, Miami football, Duke football, and the broken system we've got in the best sport in the world. Now, the best for last question of the day. This week's question of the day is the coach bigger than the program now in college football? Curt Cignetti went to Indiana, a low program, and took them to the national championship, where teams like UCLA, USC, Florida have all the resources in the world, but because they have the wrong coaches, it seems like they can't get over that hump and win championships. Is it more about the coaching or the program? Because if you put Curt Cignetti at Florida, or at USC, or at UCLA, or at Nebraska, would they win a national championship? I think so. So the resources, I think, don't matter as much anymore. You can get resources. You have to win, though, to do it. How are you going to convince a donor to give to your school if you're not winning games? Well, Mark Cuban said, win games and I'll give you money, and that's exactly what he's done. That's why they're getting guys like Nick Marsh and Josh Hoover out of the portal now to play for the Hoosiers next season. That's about for question day this week. That's about for Schoolyard Sports Land Frank, episode 245. Thank you for tuning in. Follow Schoolyard Sports on Instagram at Schoolyard Sports. Follow Schoolyard Sports on X at Schoolyard Sport. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review for the best sports content in the world. We'll be back here next week, episode 246. Stay tuned.